let's talk about ES6 modules. I'm sure, so far so good, you've been dealing with things like import something from somewhere, yeah, export something, all these sort of things. So pretty much on every JavaScript file today, you got these things on top of the file. Yeah, you see, imports, then you got exports. This is a normal thing today in modern JavaScript. However, it didn't used to be like that. So ES6 modules, let's say that every JavaScript file is a module. So that feature was introduced in 2015. Before that, we needed some libraries to manage files. Now it's much easier, at least in the front end. When talking about the back end, is still today slightly more complicated, but pretty much the same pattern. So I'm going to present you a problem. I have an application here with nothing on it. So I'm going to create a user. And as part of my user, I'll display first name Peter, last name Williams. Yeah. And because of that, now I would like to present the information about the particular user, right? Something new in the Codere platform. So we can do that easily, right? So we can create, how do we display in React the first name and the last name?
You can use a bracket.
Brackets, and then what? User dot first name space, and then we can do user dot last name, yeah, something like that. And then ideally, yeah, it will display the name of the user. Easy. But what happens if we want to display, because in real software, right, that kind of common operations need to be done again. How many times we want to display the username? Many, right? In the home page, in the profile, in the messaging, the username, you can set in the Codere platform. Your name is there multiple times. So we can repeat the same process of joining first name and last name. But this doesn't scale well, right? And the problem can get even worse. What happen if, because of a reason, some users don't have any first name or last name? The only thing they have is the email. So if the only thing they have is the email, then let's display the email, which is at least better than nothing. Think about guest users, right? People who didn't sign up into the platform. So we can have here, an expression, right? So we can do, how do we do that with a ternary operator, guys? If I have the first name, then display, if I have the first name and the last name, then display both. Otherwise, display the email. How do we do that in JavaScript? No, I don't want to use if else. I want to use a ternary operator. Do you remember the ternary? So the question is, if I got first name and last name, display first name space last name. Otherwise, display the email.
So if
I don't want to use if. I'm not going to type the word if. First name. And last name. Question mark said something. I think Luigi. What else?
undefined.
Undefined. No. Colon. Then display what? Email. Else? No?
First
No.
name and last name.
First name. Yeah? Then what? First name. And again? No? Space. How many spaces? 4? Only one. And last name. And then what?
Email.
Email. Will this work? Clearly not, right?
So can we say that in the beginning, user equal
User equal. No.
first name and user equal
You see, guys, sometimes you should pay attention to the syntax. If you notice line number 6, let user, you notice user is grayed out. It's like fade out.
Prox, you
Correct. User dot first name and user dot last name.
last name.
Yeah.
First name.
And then what? Curly brackets. Do we need curly brackets? Not really, right? This is JavaScript already. User first name. And close it. Yes. Remember, this is JavaScript, right? How do we build an expression in JavaScript? How do we combine variables and literals? Backticks. I like that. Yeah? Close the backticks, yeah? Oh, nice. That looks better this time. Say it again? So, why we display the email? Because we don't have any first name and last name. What happens if we just have the first name? What will it display? Still, right? And if we have the first name and the last name? Oh, and the comma, right? Correct. Yeah? Correct. So yeah, that's a basic logic, right? That it took us 4 minutes. Ideally, it should take 4 seconds, right? But that will get better over time. So, still, even though the logic is very simple, in reality, we don't want to do that every time we want to display username, yeah? We can have that logic hundreds of times. Because of that, let's do something. Let's create a function. Let's create a function somewhere here. Function get display name. So the function receives a user, yeah? And then, based on the user, I will literally move everything inside of the function. Yeah, remember to return something. That's just a normal JavaScript function, you see? Let me make the window a bit wider. Yeah, so get display name. Oh, cool. So now we can put get display name here, passing the user. Does it make sense? So we are just moving things around, refactoring. But again, that file is part of app.js. That means it's not reachable from other components. Yeah? So to make it reachable, to make it global if you want, I'm going to create a new file in my project structure. I don't know if it's Luigi or Davide. Could you please mute yourself? Thank you. So I'm going to create a new component somewhere, and as part of that component, I will export the function so everyone can use it. Yeah, this is one of the main basic principles of reusing code. Yeah, why we create functions? We create functions to abstract logic, but also to reuse logic. We don't want to repeat the code again. Why? Because if tomorrow we change the algorithm, if we decide that if we only have the first name, then at least display the first name rather than the email, we don't have to change it 100 times. We have to change it just once. Yeah? So that's one of the main principles of code encapsulation. So let's create a new file. For simplicity reasons, for now, I'll create it on the same root directory, src, and I'll call it get display name. Okay. No, get user details. We'll see in a minute why. A bit more generic, right? Not only the display name.
But why the,
Yep.
the line? What is kebab?
Why kebab?
Yes.
That's a good question. Why kebab? Not necessarily. No, there isn't any particular. No, you can use camel case if you want. You can even use snake case. Yeah. The only rule here is if it's a React component. Not sure if you can see at the bottom. I got the not found. If it's a React component, it should be what type of case is that? No, wrong. Not found. The case of the not found file name. Pascal case, correct, yeah? So the recommendation is, if you create a React component, use Pascal case. Otherwise, as far as I'm aware, there isn't any official recommendation. And if there is, I'll be more than happy to listen to it. Anyway, let's just create a file, yeah? Somewhere. So we create a file, and then now I want to move that function, get display name, to the file. Yeah, so now everyone, ideally, can access that logic. So now the question is, to make that code available for everybody, we need to do two things. Correct. First of all, we need to export it. Modules are private by definition. That means that whatever happens here stays here, right? Like Vegas. If you want to make that public, you have to put export. You see the prefix export on the left-hand side? And then for now, let's put default. Default means this is maybe not the only function we're exporting, but at least it's the main one. We'll see in a minute what that implies. Yeah? For now, export default, get display name. Then you can see now at the moment there is an error, right? Failed to compile. Line 14, get display name is not defined. Yeah? Because the function doesn't sit in that file anymore. Now it's external. It's somewhere else. Do you agree on that?
Yeah.
Correct. So now what we need to do? Import. Yeah? It's somewhere else. It's exported. Now let's import it. I think it's pretty natural, I hope. So let's do import, and then the name of the file, get display name from, and then the location in the system, in the hard drive. Correct. Because the file, both files, app.js and get user details, are in the same folder, the way in not only in programming, but in folder structuring, this is standard, the way to access it is with /. And as soon as you type /, you can see that Visual Studio comes with a very nice pop-up helping you to navigate through your file system. So you can just highlight, get user details, press enter, and that's it. And as soon as you do that, then, as you can see on the right-hand side, it works.
I need to add the ES.
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Do we need to add the file extension, .js? Correct. That's not necessary. No, and then you can see it works. However, does anyone know when it's convenient to add extension?
If there's two files the same name.
Correct. What happens if I got get userdetails.javascript and get userdetails.css or PNG? You can have multiple files with the same name and different extension. Yeah. So in that case, to be more specific, it's good practice to put the extension. Otherwise, JavaScript has priority, so you can leave it like that.
And if you change that file from to other folder, get user.
That's a good question. We'll do that in a second. We'll move the file to a different folder in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, FYI, and I'm not going to explain the details, but I would like to let you know why all these things are working. So when you install the Create React app thingy, you remember, under the hood, there is a mechanism responsible to load files, bundle files, concatenate files, import, export, which is Webpack. Maybe you heard about it. Yeah? So Webpack is the engine responsible to import and export under the hood. Anyway, we got that, get display name, and it works. Question, what do you think will happen if I rename, and I think the browser will spoil the result, which is not great, so let me hide the result. So what happened if I rename get display name to get Brexit deal? Will it work or not? No? Why? Because get Brexit deal is not here, right?
There
So Bilius spotted something interesting. Let's see if it worked or not. It did work.
Because
Because you are
if you
calling
replace
the-
with a slash, it should work too.
Why did it work? The default key is the keyword. Export default means, yeah, that we're exporting a function. That means when you import it, you're importing that function. You can call it however you want. The only thing to consider is that will be a function.
We use default.
When you use default, only when you use default. Only when you use default. That's the main thing you export. When you import it, you import that main thing. You can rename it. What do you think about renaming function names? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? You can get confused. That's true. At the first glance, it looks like a bad practice. Yeah. Ideally, if we export get display name, then we should put get display name here as well, and then it's consistent, it's beautiful, it's predictable. You agree on that? Yeah. However, there is a subtle but very important case where renaming is very important. What happens if we have another component that also exports get display name? It may happen, right? We can create another file, get, I don't know, challenge details, for instance, that also exports a function with the same name. Yeah? So renaming helps us to import both things. Yeah, so let me rephrase that. If we have a node that doesn't exist, yeah? But you see, now I got two components, get user details and get challenge details, and both components export the same function name. We have a problem because we are shadowing, we are replacing functions. So that's not correct, and that throws errors. That's why in here we can rename it. Instead of get display name, we can call it get user display name and then get challenge display name, for instance. We can rename them. Yeah? That's why this pattern is so powerful indeed. Any question?
As, import as.
Import as, correct.
Yeah.
So there is another alternative, which is doing import as. So if we got get display name, instead of renaming it, we can do as and then the alias. Get user display name, yeah? But why it doesn't work? Bilius?
You have to enclose it as. And no.
Not really, not really, not really.
I have some of it.
Yeah,
But
we'll talk about the as alias in a minute. For now, if you have export default, that's the way it works. Easy, right? Export default a function, and then you imported it. Can we export something apart from functions? Can we export arrays? Yeah, objects? Yes, of course we can. Yeah, we can export anything. Yes, data. Yeah, cool. So someone asked before, what happened if get user details is not on the same folder, is somewhere else? So I have a details folder, which is unrelated to what I'm talking at the moment, but because it's there, look, I'm moving my get user details to the details folder. You see? So now what happened? It fails. Look, no such file or directory, because that file is not on the same folder anymore. So how do we find the new location of the file? Again, the same thing. / and then navigate. Details / get user details. You see the hierarchy. And then it works again. What happened if get user details was on a parent folder? How do we access it? Correct. Bilius is right. ... goes one level up. You see, when you type /, then you can go anywhere. I have nothing on the parent. But that's the way. And actually you can do ... /, ... So you can keep climbing. Yeah? I'm going obviously beyond the scope of the universe now. But technically speaking, it's possible. You see? Cool. Any question, guys?
Yeah, if you have get user details importing a lot of files, you need to go
Get user details importing. What do you mean here?
Yeah, but in not just in app.js.
Yeah.
In a bunch of.
Correct. That's a good point. If you are importing get display name from 20 files, yeah, which is what will happen, and suddenly you decide to move get user details, yeah, you have to change the import 20 times. Yeah, it's how it works. Modern IDEs like Visual Studio, they have plugins to detect these sort of things. So there is a plugin that says, hey, every time you move a file, let me inspect your code and let me change all the references automatically for you. So there is a very useful plugin for that. I don't have that installed, so it's not happening. Cool. Anything else, guys? No? Right. So this is assuming that you have one function exported. But what happens if we have multiple functions? Let me rename that. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to create another function, export function. Let me leave it as it was. Export function, and then get first name. Yeah? I want to have another function. Same idea, right? It gets the user. How do we return the first name of the user? Return user dot first name, correct? Something like that, yeah? Cool, very simple. So now our component, our get user details component exports two functions. How do we access get first name? It still works, you see? So we haven't broke anything, which is a good thing. However, how do we import get first name? Comma. Here, comma, like that.
No, you don't have to put it inside curly brackets.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. When you export something as default, you can import it straight away. However, when you export something as non-default, because you can only have one default per file, then you have to surround it with curly brackets. I'm sure you've seen that somewhere else already. Yeah?
That's like when you import a component from React.
Yeah, that's when you import component from React, correct. So now you have the export default, you see, and now you can have a comma separated list of imports surrounded by brackets. So now hopefully we can do at the bottom the first name is, and then get first name user. So then the first name is it's empty. That's interesting. Oh, what is it?
Because you missed
Because you put it inside curly brackets.
you typed wrong.
I typed wrong. Get
The previous function.
oh. Oh, well done, Pauline. Can anyone see the problem? Yeah, my T keyword doesn't work well on Mac, right? So I miss it 50% of the time. I need to push it. Yeah, I have a very strong finger because I need to push it all the time. First name, yeah? And then you see it works. So I hope you see the two ways of importing and exporting. Export default, you can import it straight away. Export non-default, you see, regular export, you need to surround it with curly brackets. Yep.
If it's not get his name is the only function,
Yep.
even if it's the only one, if it doesn't see display, you still have to use the curly bracket.
Say it again, Sule.
If get his name
Yep.
is the only function,
It's the only function, correct, like that, right? We only have get first name.
would it work without curly bracket?
That's a good question. Let's remove get display name. We only have one function, which is non-default. It works, yeah? Do we need curly brackets? Yes or no? Yes, because it's non-default. You see, we don't have any default here. If it's non-default, you need curly brackets. If it's default, then you don't use curly brackets.
How can you import a function,
Yep.
but like for example, like when you import React that you put in the top,
Yeah.
React dot component. How
Yeah.
can you import a function with the same syntax? Like saying, okay, if I want to get get display name,
Yeah.
how can I put like, I don't know, user's name dot get display name function?
Users name dot get display name. No, but that's we're mixing things. We're talking about object-oriented JavaScript. This is not has nothing to do about import and export. No, sorry. Let's keep it simple, Walter. Otherwise, it will be very confusing. No. So with import export, you just export generally speaking functions, but not necessarily only functions. Yeah. So we can export variables, for instance. Export. Let's create a variable called let minimum salary equals 22, right? Something like that. Then we can export it. More or less. Why it doesn't work? Let's have a look. So we should be careful with the syntax when exporting variables. So for instance, export means salary. Let me create a constant. It doesn't like it. Export. Yeah, this is sometimes a bit bar. That's interesting. Let me try to export an object. Curly braces. Like that. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't really get that, to be honest. We should be able to export.
Why do you don't put the export in the...
That's a good question. No, because we cannot have inlines. Look, if I try to do that, export bar means salary. Yeah, I'm a bit confused now. That shouldn't work. Let me see if that works. I'm trying to export the mean salary and see if it works like that. No. You see, it's a bit. I mean, the thing is, the standard is a bit complex in some cases. You see. Oh, but wait a minute. Now, wait. It looks like it works. Oh, it does work. I didn't know that. So you can create a variable with a value and export it straight away. Not sure if that's something new or that already worked before. I've never seen that. But that's a good thing, yeah?
So if you put export
Yep.
in a different line, it doesn't work.
In a different line. What do you mean?
You put
Like that?
here the bar in the top,
In the top.
top of export. I mean, if you put
Export.
minimum salary,
Yeah?
minimum salary.
So we move it there, right? Yeah, it's the same. Why it doesn't work? If it works, it doesn't matter if it's on top or at the bottom.
What before wasn't working?
No, because what didn't work, look at what I did before. So what I did is, first of all, I created a variable, and then I export it. Export means salary. No, that's not valid. That doesn't work. However, if you do it in one go, it does work. Yeah? I didn't know that. Anyway, even though that's valid, as you can see, the minimum salary gets displayed, I personally recommend you to export functions all the time. I think it's just easier. Also, how many functions should we export? Ideally, in an ideal world, you should have one function per file. If you have to create multiple functions, ideally I recommend you to create multiple files, because in the long term, that will help your code to scale. Yeah? If you have 20 functions in one file, it's a bit harder.
I have actually a question.
Yep.
Like, let's say if I have 20 functions,
Yep.
shouldn't I like organize them in class? Like,
But this about.
No, this is very functional. That's why.
Yeah.
Functional programming. So
Yep.
I have function.
Yep.
I export it. It's
Yep.
so cool. But like once you have like I don't know, all these functions like
Yep.
manage user and I don't know cakes or something.
Yep.
So like they have a class.
Yep.
based, like,
I wouldn't.
It's a heavier.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that because a class has a state. So what we are doing is a stateless approach. You have functions, receive something, return something. They don't keep any data, any details about you. If you have a class, you can keep the details, right? So it's a different approach. I wouldn't recommend you to create a class for that. Walter?
What if you have 20 functions there?
Yeah, okay.
And you want to import all of them, but without saying, okay, that get the display name, get first name.
Yeah. So you want to export all the functions.
All the functions.
I think, and I'm not completely sure, that you can use a wildcard. Something like that. And then if you do that, you can do user details dot, I think, I'm not sure, I may be wrong. Get display name.
User details is the only.
Import statement
Yeah, I'm not sure, Walter. I think there is a way to import everything, but I'm not sure if you can assign it to a variable or not. Yeah, as I say, the import-export syntax can be a bit complicated, right? So I didn't want to go that far. So just keep the idea that these are the most important things. Export default, export non-default. And the very last thing, because we run out of time, as Bill you suggested before, what happened if we have another component exporting get default get first name? Remember what we expressed before? Import get first name from something else. You remember that? Now we have a collision, right? The same function is imported twice. You remember we managed to rename that one. You remember, right? If you rename it to get something first name, that's fine. However, can we rename that one that easily? What happened if I rename get first name to get user first name? Will it work? No. Correct. It did work here because we have only one default, yes? So the default can be renamed easily. However, the non-default ones is more complicated because it will go to the component, get user details, and I will say, okay, what is my get user first name? No, I don't have any function with that name. However, for these kind of cases, this is the last thing for today, we can rename it. So get first name as get user first name. You see? So now this is a way to rename non-default imports. Yeah, with us. And be careful with the line of your imports, right? To me, this line is very long. You will get a penalty. You remember the elegance penalties? Yeah? So please move it somehow to make sure it's readable. Something like that, for instance. Any question?
functional think React books and stuff. In React,
Yeah.
like if you have like functional components,
Yeah.
not a class based.
Correct.
Like which I think we created.
Yeah, you created some already, yeah?
Yeah, so we're gonna be using as well.
Yeah, the same. Absolutely the same thing. It's literally the very same thing. Yeah. When you create a React component, you export it and then you import it. Because at the end of the day, a React component is JavaScript. Could be a function or could be a class, but it's just JavaScript. Yeah.
Can you have two functions with the same name but receiving different parameters?
No, that doesn't work in JavaScript. In JavaScript, you cannot have the same function with different arguments. No,
Okay.
only one. Anything else, guys? Yeah, Walter?
How do you import? Because that's only work with React, no?
With the React. No. Why with the React? This ES6 syntax, which is modern JavaScript, but this has nothing to do with React.
But with the node environment,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
Correct. That's what I wanted to mention last. Historically speaking, as I said, that wasn't supported. That's a new thing in JavaScript from 2015. And it works perfectly with modern tooling like the one we use in the front end, all good. However, in the back end, in Node, that you start working with it, and that's number 18, even though they want to support that very same syntax because it's JavaScript, the support is not, it's not great yet. And you will see that the syntax is different. Yeah. Instead of doing, let me simplify that. Export. Let's keep one function to see the similarities. So here you do export function get first name in the front end. In the back end, you will do module.exports get first name. Yeah, it's a slightly different syntax. To import is also a bit different. In here you do import get first name from wherever, right? Somewhere. In backend, you do let get first name equals required like that. Yeah, at least the pattern is the same. Import export is literally the same, but the syntax is different. However, there are lots of efforts on the Node community to adopt the ES6 syntax. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure where we are at the moment. So, but I think the latest version supports that, and experimentally, I'm sure if you install some plugins, you can do that as well. Yeah, you see, look. So there is. It looks like if you run Node passing a flag experimental modules, then it works, right? So it's still work in progress. I'm sure at some point that will happen. Yeah, and it will be very beneficial, of course, because it will be one syntax for everything. That's actually the main difference today between front-end JavaScript and back-end JavaScript, the way you import and export modules. Anything else?
Yeah,
Yep.
So yesterday I did rename a function in a file. I just changed a capital letter, and VS Code did update all the inputs on the other side automatically. Well, all, because one.
Yep.
Even if I didn't install the extension, maybe now it's like comes by default.
Okay, so maybe now it's built in out of the box, yeah?
It just sounded like easy.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
Like you get a dialogue that's
Yep.
I'm basically refreshing all these things.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's a great thing. Yeah. Cool, good stuff, Nico. Anything else?
I like get first name. So get a sentence in JavaScript web, by default become a class. I don't know.
Not necessarily. When you create a function, you can use different case, right? Function get first name, but you can call it get underscore first underscore name. However, to me that feels more like PHP. It feels less standard in JavaScript. Technically speaking, you can even use capitals, right? But again, this is not recommended. Pascal case is not recommended for function names. This is recommended for what? For React components, yeah? Classes and stateless components. Yeah? So generally speaking, when you create a function in JavaScript, use camel case. Feels more standard. Luigi, Davide, any question? I think you're mute if you're trying to participate. Otherwise, I'll take that as not clear. Cool. Perfect. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. That was it.
Thanks, Victor.